I wake, and in the darkness of mine and Nadia's tent, a light blinds me. I squint my eyes towards it, and peeking in from outside the tent is Moses, Ty, and Jerome, each holding a wooden spear. They tell me to get dressed as I'm going spearfishing with them, and Nadia berates them for waking us up so early. I'm by no means a morning person, but even with Nadia lying next to me, I really didn't want to lie back down in the darkness, with the disturbing dream I just had fresh in my mind. I just wanted to forget about it instantly. I didn't even want to think about it. Later on, the four of us are in the stream trying to catch our breakfast. We were all just standing there with our poorly made spears for like half an hour before any fish came our way. Eventually, the first one came in my direction, and the three lads just start yelling at me to get the fish. There it is. Get it. Go on. Get it. I tried my best to spear it, but it was too fast, and them lot shouting at me wasn't helping. Anyways, the fish gets away downstream, and the three of them just started yelling at me again, saying I was useless. I quickly lost my temper and started shouting back at them. Ever since we got on the boat, these three guys did nothing but get in my face. They mocked my accent, told me nobody wanted me there, and behind my back. They said they couldn't see what Nadia saw in that white limey. I had enough. I told all three of them to fuck off, and that they could catch their own fucking fish from now on. But as I'm about to leave the stream, Jerome yells at me, "Dude, watch out, there's a snake," pointing by my legs. I freak out and quickly raise my feet to avoid the snake. I panic so much that I lose my footing and splash down into the stream. Still freaking out over the snake near me, I then hear laughter coming from the three lads. There was no snake. Having completely had it with a lot of them, I march over to Jerome for no other reason but to punch his lights out. Jerome was bigger than me and looked like he knew how to fight. But I didn't care. It was a long time coming. Before I can even try, Ty steps out in front of me, telling me to stop. I push Ty out the way to get to Jerome, but Ty gets straight back in my face and shoves me over aggressively. Like I said, out of the three of them, Ty clearly hated me the most. He had probably been looking for an excuse to fight me, and I had just given him one. But just as I'm about to get into it with Ty, all four of us hear, "Guys." We all turn around to the voice to see it's Angela, standing above us on high ground, holding a perfectly made spear with 5 or more fish skewered on there. We all stared at her, kind of awkwardly, like we were expecting to be yelled at. But she instead tells us to get out of the stream and follow her. She had something she needed to show us. The four of us followed behind Angela through the jungle, and Moses demanded to know where we're going. Angela says she found something earlier on, but couldn't tell us what it was because she didn't even know. And when she shows us, we understand why she couldn't. It was indescribable, but I knew what it was, and it shook me to my core. What laid in front of us, from one end of the jungle to the other, was a fence, the exact same fence from my dreams. It was a never-ending line of sharp, crisscrossed wooden spikes. Only what was different was, this fence was completely covered in bits and pieces of dead, rotting animals. There were skulls, monkey skulls, animal guts, or intestines, infested with what seemed like hundreds of flies buzzing around, and the smell was like nothing I'd ever smelled before. All of us were in shock. We didn't know what this thing was. Even though I recognized it, I didn't even know what it was. And while Angela and the others argued over what this was, I stopped and stared at what was scaring me the most. It was the other side. On the other side of the spikes was just more vegetation, but right behind it, you couldn't see anything. It was darkness, like the entrance of a huge tropical cave. And right as Moses and Angela start to get into a screaming match, we all turned to notice something behind us. Standing behind us, maybe 15 meters away, staring at us, was a group of 5 men. They were wearing these dirty, ragged clothes, like they'd had them for years, and they were small in height. In fact, they were very small, almost like children. But they were all carrying weapons. Bows and arrows, spears, machetes. Whoever these men were, they were clearly dangerous. There was an awkward pause at first, but then Moses shouts, "Hello!" at them. He takes Angela's spear with the fish and starts slowly walking towards them. We all tell him to stop, but he doesn't listen. One of the men starts approaching Moses. He looked like their leader. There's only like 5 meters between them when Moses starts speaking to the man, telling them, "We're Americans, and we don't mean them any harm." He then offered Angela's fish to the man, like an offering of some sort. The way Moses went about this was very patronizing. He spoke slowly to the man, as he probably didn't know any English. But he was wrong. In broken English, the man said, "You American?" Moses then says loudly that we're African American, like he forgot me and Angela were there. He again offers the fish to the man and says, "Here, we offer this to you." The man looks at the fish, almost insulted. But then, he looks around past Moses and straight at me. The man stares at me for a good long time. And even though I was afraid, I just stare right back at him. I thought that maybe he'd never seen a white man before. But something tells me it was something else. The man continues to stare at me with wide eyes. And then he shouts, "Our fish! You take our fish!" Frightened by this, we all start taking steps backwards, closer to the fence, and all Moses can do is stare back at us. The man then takes out his machete and points it towards the fence behind us. He yells, "No safe here! You go home! Go back America!" The men behind him also began shouting at us, waving their weapons in the air, almost ready to fight us. We couldn't understand the language they were shouting at us in, but there was a word I still remember. They were shouting at us, "Asili, Asili, Asili," over and over. Moses, the idiot he was, he then approached the man, trying to reason with him. The man then raises his machete up to Moses, threatening him with it. Moses throws up his hands for the man not to hurt him. And then he slowly makes his way back to us, without turning his back to the man. As soon as Moses reaches us, we head back in the direction we came, back to the stream and the commune. But the men continue shouting and waving their weapons at us. And as soon as we lose sight of them, we run. When we get back to the commune, we tell the others what just happened, as well as what we saw. Like we thought they would, they freaked the fuck out. We all speculated on what the fence was. Angela said that it was probably a hunting ground that belonged to those men, which they barricaded and made to look menacing to scare people off. This theory made the most sense. But what I didn't understand was, how the hell had I dreamed of it? How the hell had I dreamed of that fence before I even knew it existed? I didn't tell the others this because I was scared what they might think. But when it was time to vote on whether we stayed or went back home, I didn't waste a second in raising my hand in favor of going. And it was the same for everyone else. The only one who didn't raise the hand was Moses. He wanted to stay. This entire idea of starting a commune in the rainforest, it was his. It clearly meant a lot to him, even at the cost of his life. His mind was more than made up on staying, even after having his life threatened. And he made it clear to the group that we were all staying where we were. We all argued with him, told him he was crazy, and things were quickly getting out of hand. But that's when Angela took control. Once everyone had shut the fuck up, she then berated all of us. She said that none of us were prepared to come here and that we had no idea what we were doing. She was right, we didn't. She then said that all of us were going back home. No questions asked, like she was giving us an order. And if Moses wanted to stay, he could. But he would more than likely die alone. Moses said he was willing to die here, to be a martyr to the cause or some shit like that. But by the time it got dark, we all agreed that in the morning, we were all going back downriver and back to Kinshasa. Despite being completely freaked out that day, I did manage to get some sleep. I knew we had a long journey back ahead of us. And even though I was scared of what I might dream, I slept anyways. And there I was, back at the fence. I moved through it, through to the other side. Darkness and identical trees all around. And again, I see the light. And again, I'm back inside of the circle, with the huge black rotten tree stood over me. But what's different was the face wasn't there. It was just the tree. But I could hear breathing coming from it. Soft but painful breathing, like someone was suffocating. Remembering the hands, I look around me, but nothing's there. It's just the circle. I look back to the tree and above me. Eye up on the tree, I see a man. He was small, like a child, and he was breathing very soft but painful breaths. His head was down, and I couldn't see his face, but what disturbed me was the rest of him. This man, this childlike man against the tree. He'd been crucified to it. He was stretched out around the tree, and it almost looked like it was birthing him.